Hi guys, back with something different today, doing a fishing rod review. And this is a review of an old rod that's from around 2021. It's a really popular rod in Australia and it's actually been discontinued, so this is kind of the late mail on this rod. A lot of people were really disappointed when the Shimano Anarchy rod range was discontinued in the past sort of 6 to 12 months. You can still find them on the market, but in limited models. So for example, a 6'10" model you can still find, and some of the longer models as well. This is the Shimano Anarchy 2 to 4 kilo rod. It's a 702. It is joined in the middle of the rod, and it's generally for throwing about 1 to 8 or 9 gram. So the reason that I have this rod is I managed to kind of accidentally come across it in store. Given that they're discontinued, I was pretty surprised to see that I could still find the 2 to 4 kilo at Anaconda, and I snapped it up straight away just because, one, they're almost impossible to find brand new, and two, I was always curious about this rod, and the reason being that it has the skeleton reel seat, which a lot of people really like, and this reel seat's also present in the Ian Miller range of rods, and he was previously a rod designer at Shimano before he went out on his own, and he uses this skeleton reel seat on a lot of his rod models these days, especially the lighter models. The Anarchy was a really popular fishing rod, and people were quite confused when it was discontinued. I've used this rod a couple of times and I was really hesitant to buy it when it was for sale regularly in the market, and the main reason was the comfort of the skeleton reel seat. So I have a few theories on why this rod was discontinued, given that it seemed to be such a popular rod, and I'll run through those theories in a minute. Firstly, it's a beautiful rod cosmetically. It has these really nice maroon coloured, burgundy coloured features on it. It's got Shimano's T45 blank technology. It has really high quality Fuji Alkanite K guides. Again, it's a T45 carbon blank, and it's got this skeleton grip as well. So it's a beautiful looking rod. You can see I've still got the Anaconda label on this one because I've only used it a couple of times, but in using it a couple of times I've been able to figure out pretty quickly why I think it was discontinued. This rod retailed for $219 when it first came out, and then it was on sale from anywhere from $149 down to perhaps a cheaper price when it was being run out. And when it was being run out in the last 6 or so months, it sold out really quickly when it was at that lower price. So the marketing for this rod has been that the skeleton grip reduces a lot of weight in the rod simply by not having a longer EVA foam grip, and the other thing is that some people do like the skeleton grip for comfort. So here's the rod just paired with little Shimano Merivale 1000, just for the sake of showing you what it looks like when it is paired up. A lot of reels go really well with this rod cosmetically. A lot of people use the Shimano Stratic on this rod. Now, talking about the reel seat, there's one thing I can see is a big turn off to using a rod with a skeleton reel seat. I don't have massive hands, but I've got a problem with the comfort of this skeleton seat. So for example, holding the rod like so, and there's a thumb and forefinger grip here, which is really nice. And the problem doesn't sit up here, it actually sits down here in the lower section of the skeleton reel seat. It's really uncomfortable because this skeleton seat doesn't extend far enough back for your whole hand to be on the reel seat. So this portion of my hand here is covering the relatively uncomfortable reel seat screw, and it's also covering this relatively sharp highlight here, and then the bottom of my hand is also onto the blank. So it's really uncomfortable, and the bottom part of the hand is just running along this downslope, so to speak, onto the back of the blank. When using a more regular shaped reel seat, you can see that holding the rod like so means that the back of the hand is now sitting parallel with the rest of the reel seat, and it's incredibly comfortable sitting on this foam. So there's no sloping gradient or little pieces of sharpness on this rod here. And this rod is my Akuma Helios SX rod, which is by far the best rod that I've ever used, and it's only about 110 bucks. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. This rod does share a lot of visual similarities with the Shimano Anarchy, in that it does have these burgundy highlights and silver highlights. And this is also a 2 to 4 kilo rod, so I use this a lot for estuary fishing and light saltwater fishing. And the Akuma Helios SX rod is getting a bit harder to find, but if you can find them in Australia, you can get them for around 100 bucks, maybe $110 at the most, and they're in absolute steel because they are just such a beautiful rod to use. So back to the Anarchy, I definitely don't find the reel seat to be comfortable at the back, and I think that's one reason why people either kind of like or hate this rod. The reel seat either works for you or not. One of the other problems with this rod that I find is the really small butt end on the rod. It's just really tiny and really compact, and I cast with 2 hands, obviously one hand on the reel seat, one hand on the base of the rod, and there's really almost nothing to grip onto. And again, there are some relatively sharp edges here, as opposed to it just being a nice smooth butt end. Using the Akuma Helios SX again, just to highlight this, this does have a nicer butt end to the rod, where it's a much smoother transition between the EVA foam on the butt in comparison as it bends down towards the blank at the end. And we can very quickly compare them side by side like this. So besides some concerns with the comfort of the rod in hand, there are a couple of other unusual things about this rod. A lot of people say that they enjoy using it for soft plastics fishing, which is great. And soft plastics fishing rods generally have a really fast action to them. So only really the top tip section of the rod bends when it's been loaded up by a lure. This is advertised as a fast action rod, but in my experience it's not. It's a very whippy rod, and being a very whippy rod, I found personally that it's more suited to hard body lures that have small trebles that you really want to be careful of when you hook up to a fish. You don't really want to be smashing small trebles into a fish with a fast action rod, because they can you can easily miss hookups as a result. So I find the Shimano Anarchy to be a really whippy rod, and probably more on the moderate side of things when it comes to its action. So again, that was a bit of a surprise when it came to using this rod for the first time. And I know a lot of people don't like really whippy rods, especially when they're casting soft plastics, which is incredibly popular these days. A lot of people have talked about using the Shimano Anarchy 1 to 3 kilo, which is a 6'10", or this rod, the 2 to 4 kilo, as brim rods. It's interesting that people consider it as a brim rod, because the other problem with this rod I find is the weight of the rod. It's actually really heavy for what's meant to be a light fishing rod. The problem with that is that they went to a lot of effort in their marketing to talk about how the reel seat, being a skeleton seat, reduces a lot of the weight of the rod, but this rod actually weighs in at 110 grams, which makes it really heavy. And if I compare that to my Akuma Helios SX, which is a 702, exactly the same length, also a mid-join as far as a two-piece is concerned, that weighs about 95 to 98 grams, and that's much lighter than this rod. This rod was retailing at $219 when it came out, and the Akuma Helios, again, that retailed at $120. So the Akuma Helios is a far superior rod when it comes to weight. And a lot of people have wanted to compare the Shimano Anarchy with the Daiwa Infeet brim rods, and in my opinion there's no comparison when it comes to weight, because again the Anarchy weighs 110, and a lot of those Daiwa Infeet rods across the whole range weigh anywhere from generally 90 to 95 grams. So they are very light rods, and this rod again weighing at 110 grams and advertising itself as a light rod due to what they've done with the reel seat. Yeah, that really doesn't fly. Okay, so here we go, just weighing the Shimano Anarchy. Just holding it very lightly onto this scale. So yeah, we're looking at around 109 grams, which is, just make sure that I get that right. Yep, we're looking at around 109 grams for this rod, which is really heavy for what's advertised as a lightweight rod. In contrast, this is my Kuma Helios XSX rod on the scale, and only 96, 97 grams. So the positives about this rod really lie in the rod specs. So the T45 carbon blank is a really high quality carbon blank that's going to recover really quickly after you cast, and it's going to give you accurate casting as a result of that quick recovery. So when the rod tip bends, or the rod bends after you flick out a lure, you're going to find that it recovers into a straight line really quickly with this rod. The other highlight is the beautiful Fuji Alkanite K guides, which are really smooth, and in my experience I had absolutely no problem casting braided line and leader knots through these beautiful guides. If you combine the skeleton seat with the T45 rod blank with the guides, that's enough to justify that really high price when this rod came out. Also the beautiful aesthetics of the rod as well. It's a really nice looking rod, there's no doubt about it. So in comparison, my Kuma Helios SX rod, which I'm just comparing it to because it's my favorite rod, in the 2 to 4 kilo range, this is a 30 ton carbon blank, which is still really high quality for only 100 Australian dollars or thereabouts. It doesn't have the skeleton seat, but it has a beautifully curved seat, a Fuji seat that is really easy to hold. It's got these nice ribbed lines across the top of the reel seat handle, which make it really easy to grip. And again, it has enough grip at the back of the reel seat for you to rest your whole hand comfortably across. This is just an absolutely brilliant rod, and depending on the feedback, I might do a separate review on this rod altogether. Okay, comparing the action of this rod, which is the Kuma Helios SX, which is a fast action rod, and we'll compare this to the Shimano Anarchy rod, which, like I said before, is a really whippy kind of rod. So just generally putting a bit of pressure on the rod, and this is the action of the Kuma Helios, which is a fast rod, so we're not seeing much bend in that rod tip at all. And now we're going to compare it to the Shimano Anarchy rod, which you can probably see is, for the same action, is very, very whippy. So this is a bit more of a fast moderate, or a moderately fast rod, as opposed to a fast or a very fast rod. So for those who missed out on the Shimano Anarchy and were disappointed, you probably don't need to be disappointed too much, because they replaced this rod range with the Shimano Asenza rods recently. So one of the interesting things about the new Shimano Asenza rods is they actually addressed this problem with the skeleton seat being really uncomfortable once it gets to the back end of the reel seat and the screw for the reel seat. What they've done on the Asenza is they've added a bit of EVA foam down the back here, so that when your hand is touching the back of the reel seat, it's not uncomfortable, and it raises it up to a similar level to the back of the reel seat. So I'll just show you a photo of that now. The main reason the Asenza is the replacement for the Anarchy is the Shimano Asenza comes with the skeleton seat. So you can still pick up a Shimano rod with a skeleton seat. The Asenza sells for 199 Australian dollars, whereas the Anarchy initially retailed for 219. It comes in a 7'2", 1 to 4 kilo, which seems to have effectively replaced this Anarchy 702 2 to 4 kilo. And the Shimano Asenza rod range also has a 6'9", 2 to 4 kilo, and a 7'6", 2 to 3 kilo, which is really interesting. So it seems that Shimano discontinued the Anarchy, even though it was probably relatively popular, although if sales were amazing, I can't imagine they would have discontinued it. And perhaps sales were not quite what they were because of all the reasons that I've pointed out, the faults with this rod in my personal opinion, because I know people love this rod. I just haven't been able to gel with it. The problems with the reel seat, the problems with it not being actually lightweight, problems with having a really short butt for two-handed casting, and also the problem with it being a whippier rod than most people are used to or expecting when they're expecting a really fast rod action. So if you missed out on Shimano Anarchy, some of those things have been addressed with the Shimano Asenza rod. An annoying thing is Shimano don't actually tell you the action of their rod range on their website, and they really need to get with the times and keep up with what fishermen are interested in, especially those that are throwing lures, to make sure that they are providing all the information that people need in order to make a choice. So within a particular rod range, the action of the Shimano rods can really vary greatly, from a regular or moderate action all the way up to a fast or very fast action. Shimano simply did not tell you on their website what action a rod has, so it's really hard to choose what purpose to use it for. Okay, so unfortunately I haven't gelled with this rod, so this is going to be up for sale. If anyone wants to buy it off me, feel free to leave a comment. I bought it from Anaconda for $149, and I'm happy to sell it to one of my subscribers for the same price. Given how hard they are to find brand new, I could probably sell this for a little bit more if I could be bothered. If you want to buy this rod and you're not a subscriber, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment if you want to buy it, and I'm more than happy for you to come and pick it up. Okay, thanks for watching. If you'd like to see any more rod reviews, just let me know. This is the first rod review I've done, so feel free to give me any feedback and let me know if you'd like to see me review any more rods. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.